Lee Winnell is back with another entry into the official dark universe with a new take on the Wolfman. Let's dive in, but be aware there are some spoilers ahead. Lee Winnell's Wolfman follows Blake and his family, who are attacked by an unseen animal on their way to Blake's father's remote home in the Oregon wilderness. During the attack, Blake is scratched, and as the night wears on, he begins to change, behaving strangely and transforming into something unrecognizable to his wife and daughter. So this is and isn't a new take on the Wolfman trope. I want to preface that because I've seen a lot of people talk about how much Lee Winnell changed the Wolfman in this movie. And I had a friend specifically tell me about interviews he saw with Lee Winnell before he's even seen the movie, specifically talking about the influence that COVID had on the movie, according to Winnell, and how he changed up what audiences know about the Wolfman. And me hearing this with the benefit of already having seen the movie, like, I don't want to say it was misleading, but I think it would be doing a movie a disservice to focus on those things going into the film. Regarding the COVID influence aspect, Lee Winnell talks about the cabin fever aspect. Quote, "I think that really infected this script. And even though I would not call this a COVID movie in any way, I would say that the script reflects the mindset of that time, the isolation, the confinement to one place." I really like the isolation aspect of the movie. The remote farm in the middle of this Oregon wilderness really heightened the fear for me. The beautiful shots of the forest, whether from below or above, showed the beauty of nature and the horror that comes from not fully understanding the world. It's a reminder that there are things out there that we have yet to discover at all or fully understand. And I feel like this movie reflects that. And being out in the wilderness like that as a setting, they really play with darkness in this film. Like the lack of just light pollution. It made for some really scary moments in that age-old, always effective, very human fear of something out there in the darkness watching you, but you can't see it. I mean, that just goes back to our basic survival instincts, really. But there were, I thought, a lot of really scary moments in this, and the build up to the scary scenes had me peeking behind my fingers for more than one moment. And to address the other thing, Winnell does change up the Wolfman narrative that we are used to back from Lon Chaney Jr. days, but the bones are there. A man going back home and encountering a legend that he doesn't understand, but ends up at the epicenter of it and transforms in ways he doesn't fully comprehend. Yeah, that's all there. Where the movie really shines for me is just focusing on a perspective of the Wolfman that I feel like the original doesn't really get into. This is a slow transformation that takes place over the course of the movie, and we see it from Blake's point of view, particularly the confusion that he has at what's happening to him, and to me that's really scary. Having your body change and not being in control is frightening, and it adds an emotional aspect because we're seeing Blake go through this and we see him slowly lose himself over the course of the movie. So it adds a really interesting element where we're experiencing this thing both from Blake's point of view and his wife Charlotte and his daughter Ginger's point of view. And regarding the transformation, this one felt like it goes a little bit harder on the body horror aspect of it all. Wolfman movies are always body horror at their core, and there was a lot more gore. It wasn't excessive though. I could definitely see the influence of movies like Cronenberg's The Fly, especially in the early stages of Blake's transformation. And and thinking about that, I did see some reviews that said that Blake was not nearly hairy enough in this movie in his ultimate transformation. I can confirm that he wasn't that hairy, but I can't say that the lack of hair really affected my rating. And honestly, I didn't even think about it when I was watching it. Ultimately, I really liked how Blake looked in the end. It was scary how human he still looked. Like, you could still see him in there, you know? And it gives this idea that, like, deep down, the Blake that we know from the beginning of the movie is still there and suffering, and that's really scary to me. What I liked most in this iteration of the Wolfman was kind of like an update to the themes that we've seen before in previous films. Among other things, the repression of primal instincts, the extent of male rage, and the struggle against fate. So the movie starts with Blake as a child, so we can see the harsh conditions that he was raised under, living with his father. Cut to Blake as an adult, like seeing him in the city and interact with his own daughter. But we do see one like kind of choice lesson that he learned with his own father that he uses in parenting his own daughter. And it's set up in a way that you know that's gonna come full circle when he starts to transform. Blake returning home is what unlocks the trauma he faced as a child in the literal form of being turned into this monster. It's the fear that we're doomed to repeat the same toxicity that might have been inflicted on us from our parents, other family members that raised us. And it's that fear and confusion that comes with seeing yourself change into this thing that you don't recognize and this thing that you try really, really hard to not become. It's actually heartbreaking. Checking my letterboxd as I was walking out of the theater, as one does, I was surprised to see the amount of low rankings on this. I had to scroll a little bit to find reviews that weren't just like funny one-liners. I can't even be mad at that because that's like all my Letterboxd reviews are. But when I found some, one common theme that I noticed among them was a criticism of the pacing and maybe lack of character development in the beginning of the movie. I do agree with that to an extent. It's why I gave it 4 stars, but I'm conflicted because on one hand, with the character introductions that were given, I was able to infer a lot about these characters, but the pacing like did feel rushed in a way. I really appreciate that I wasn't being spoon-fed characterization. I mean, like, I have a film studies degree, for fuck's sake. Like, I don't need it to be laid out so obviously, but I feel like I still would have liked a little bit more before the wolf attack. Not necessarily to get more about the characters. Again, I feel like I understood them. I was able to infer a lot. It just felt rushed in general, I think, to get back to the woods, which I think kind of tricked my brain into thinking I needed more of a character introduction. hence the conflicted feelings. Overall, I had a good time. I thought it was scary, a little bit gross at times, and different in a way I appreciated. Like, if I'm gonna have to watch another werewolf movie from the point of view of a man, at least make it an interesting story, and I think Lee Winnell did that. I'm gonna wait for the rest of this weekend's reviews to pour in as everybody goes to see it, but I'm getting the feeling that I'm gonna be in the minority on this one. I'm excited to hear what y'all thought about it in the comments. Do you still have faith in the dark universe after this release? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video after a small break at the beginning of this year for me. I'm ready to jump right back into all things horror all year long, as it's been on this channel for 10 years now. Look at me my 10th year of YouTube. This is so exciting. I'll see you soon with another video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.